Namaste, Jai Bharat. The US has very recently imposed 245% tariff on China for all the goods. 245% of tariff. This is not simply a tariff raise, but this is indeed a tariff battle, tariff war. See, the whole thing begins with the nationalistic perception of President Trump. When a ruler of a nation feels that he should work for his nation, that's the most welcome thought. But civilized societies, they don't do it at the cost of others. Hitler was doing things at the cost of others, and that's what makes Hitler unacceptable. But in modern world, when a leader works towards his nation, then he never does it at the cost of other nations, but he keeps the interest of his nation and its people right in front of his eyes and functions. That is a very welcome thought, and that's precisely what every nation society wants their leaders to do. But even in democracies, when there is a dictatorship or an authoritarian rule, the people will work for a caucus. Dictatorship works for himself, the dictator himself, apart from or plus a caucus that's around him, which facilitates the dictator in turn. But in democracy, a similar caucus functions as the political party in power. They will take care of the party interest. But in either cases, the interest of the nation, society, that is the interest of the nation, nation history, nation's culture, and the people of the nation, is overlooked or sidelined. They go by a kind of caucus ruling or even pressure group ruling. That's a difference between a nationalist in rule and a politician in rule or a dictator in rule. When you see the two cases in front of us, one is our Prime Minister Narendra Bhai and the President US Donald Trump, both are hard nationalists. So the whole thing came, President Trump understood that the whole world is taking the US for a ride. In the sense, they take advantage of America. Everyone takes advantage of America. The European Union takes advantage of America. The United Nations take advantage of America. The IMF takes advantage of America. The entire world takes advantage of America. And America does that to remain a world kind of police, a kind of world police. That's what people say. Why should they? They spend enormous amount of money on name, fame, and assumed authority of others over others, which America shall have and should always have, because whosoever is disputing or whatever people say, the US is still the most powerful nation in the world, undoubtedly, and it's not easy that somebody else can overtake them so easily. It's not possible. So US has an authority. They need not spend through their nose to entice others into accepting their domination. They are compelled to accept otherwise. So this reality, President Trump realizes. So he is telling, so you can't take the US people for a ride. So he started imposing tariff. The idea of his imposing tariff was to discuss with individual nations and reach some kind of agreement, but nothing goes free from US. That is natural. Why should there be anything going free to anyone? And why should anyone expecting anything free? Because there's nothing like free in the entire world. Someone has to pay for it. When you eat food, each grain is grown by a farmer. It doesn't just come out of the blue. Someone has to work behind it. Similarly, when you get something free, there's somebody behind it. Someone sweats behind it. Someone actually pays for it. Things that you get free. So the question of getting free or subsidy or even discount doesn't exist. there is always somebody paying for it. We do not know that somebody, but then there's always somebody paying for it. So this is a position which the US is taking very rightly in the interest of their nation. Fine. But then the tariff was introduced and the tariff was declared, and the nations wanted to discuss things with the US. That's what US wanted. We'll reach some kind of understanding, and then adjust, increase, reduce. You are benefited, I am benefited. That's trade relationship for mutual benefit, for benefits of everyone. Someone may not take enormous profit from nothing, and someone may not lose miserably. That kind of an understanding people can reach through understanding, through talks, and through discussions. Most likely, this must have been what President Trump wants from the rest of the nation. Having this been done, there's one nation, China. China was always aggressive. Not the Chinese people. I always say the Chinese people are very civilized. They share cultural relations with the Bharat, civilization relations with Bharat, and many things in China was actually a creation of scholars from Bharat. That is a different topic, nonetheless. China refused to accept. Now China started going for a counter battle, counter tariff. It started with up to 100 and something was there, but suddenly China again spoke, talked, retaliated, and the tariff goes to 245%. And then before that, just before this decision of 245% tariff, US said for all other nations, for 90 days there is a moratorium on tariff. It will be 10% only for 90 days. So take this time and discuss with us to reach some understanding. The message is very clear. But China wanted to retaliate because China has this secret, very ambitious program in their mind to substitute or overtake US and become the world leader. Now imagine if a nation like China becomes a world leader, there can be all kinds of things happening because the communists and the communist so-called leaders, they have absolutely different kind of ethics. They claim that they have ethics, but they don't care for human lives, etc. They don't go for much rhetoric, all right, that's one thing good, but they don't care for others. They don't even bother about their own people. What China does is simple. They gave their people money, job opportunity, comfort, facilities, everything they give, technological support, everything they give, except the freedom to think and talk. Now, many people would want nothing but freedom to think and talk. A bird in a cage can't accept captivity, irrespective of whatever kinds of great food you feed. It would wish to fly. That's the phenomenon of that's a feeling with the freedom. That's how we understand freedom. We would sacrifice anything for freedom. So they don't have that freedom. So this makes the society a closed society, like Popper had said. The enemies of open society. His book was named The Open Society and Its Enemies. No, way back. So people would prefer to be free than being fed by the state. So this actually keeps Chinese authority going, because when people get things, there are no much talks about freedom, because they don't know what's happening in the world. That's a fact. They don't really know what are the things happening in the world, because they have very controlled, restricted, and edited media, edited news going to them. What the government or what the authority, what the dictator wants, only those things are shown. What really happens is hardly available to the people of China. Whatever China speaks against Bharat, whatever China does against Bharat, actually the people of China do not know. When a person from Bharat visits China, they are comfortable, they are very happy. They love people from Bharat because many of them share cultural background relations. So this 245 tariff, and the China still is resisting, is actually going to destroy them. This kind of stubbornness is not meant for any kind of a diplomatic understanding of national leadership, governance, where many other things are involved. The person is not involved. It is society that is involved. The people that belong to the society that's involved. So your decisions, your steps, and that kind of arrogance would put China back. It's unfortunate for the people of China. This 245% tariff is an atom bomb. They cannot sell their product, simple as that, at least in America. And then subsequently, the friends of America also might not want to buy. They would impose tariffs, or they will restrict imports. These kinds of things are possible, but this is an unnecessary ego, because the Chinese premier, the Chinese authority wants to prove that they are actually a substitute for US. That's why they resist. They wanted to get the other world nations with them. They tried to make many people in their fold, and did not succeed very much. Primarily, there's a problem with China that no one trusts them. Our relations are temporary. No one trusts them, and we are victims of trusting them for years, for a long time, through several incidents. We are victims. But then they wanted to show to the world that they are powerful. They have everything. They are number 2 economy, not a matter of joke. They have technological advantage. Serious. They have technical skills. They have everything. But I don't think they can fight US in whichever plane, economically or even militarily. They just can't fight. So if they understand this, things will be amicably settled. But then China can't afford it, because if they succumb to US, their dreams are getting shattered of becoming world leader, world number 1, world police, that everyone would listen to them. Even if they become very authoritative in power, I don't think the world will listen to them, because the world basically don't trust them. The world basically don't trust. It doesn't mean that we trust everybody in the world, but at least the relations should be for some time, we know. Then of course it will change, because there's nothing permanent in geopolitics. It can keep changing. We shall meet with some other thought. Till then, Namaste. Jai Bharat, Jai Shri Ram.